Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my boss fired me claiming that women working in IT are useless. I basically ran the entire department and he lives to regret his decision. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. So I was in charge of an IT department at a pretty large operation. I had 20 people working under me, but there were just some things that only I was qualified to do. Namely, anything when it came to the cybersecurity aspects. The less people that are involved in that, the better, because it reduces the risk of an internal attack. I loved my old boss, but he sadly retired and the guy that replaced him made me and every single other female employee uncomfortable. For starters, he did not think that women had a place in IT and kept treating me like I was some assistant or secretary. When I finally got it through his thick head that I worked in IT, he had a new strategy. He started trying to flirt with me and ask me out. Obvious sexual harassment, and I wanted to just shut him down right away. New owner, why don't we just go out for a drink after work and then see where it goes? Me, I'm gonna stop you right there. I am in a committed relationship and will never be going anywhere with you outside of the office. If you need IT help, I will be more than happy to assist, but otherwise, please stop. Owner, we both know that you don't know anything about technology. The company hires women just so the owners can have something nice to look at. An attitude like yours is not gonna go very far here. I reported him for harassing me and he was being investigated. During that time, he managed to find out that I was not only in a relationship, but also a lesbian. I would not have had interest in him even if he was the best guy in the entire world, because I don't swing that way. I was told that he got a warning and would not be coming down to the IT office again unless it was on serious business. He may have had the title of owner, but the CEO was still above him, so he couldn't just do anything. When he heard that he was on thin ice, he knew it was because of me and then got super pissed. Instead of responding in an adult manner, he decided on the nuclear option. Fire and insult me in front of a ton of people. Owner, you need to pack your crap and get out of here. If we need somebody to run IT, we can get a man to come and do it. Not some woman that probably does not even know how to turn on a computer. Plus the fact that you didn't even tell me that you were a lesbian is a breach of trust. You need to let me know these things so I can make it a safe space for everybody else. If you are not aware, the law does not make me need to disclose my sexual orientation to my job. On top of that, they are not allowed to discriminate against me for it in any way. I was not about to have a fight in the middle of the office though. Me, I will leave, but don't think that what you just said is not gonna get reported back to HR. I took my stuff, left and then called HR to file the report of me being fired and what he said. Unfortunately, they did not have the power to just reverse his decision or something, and it would need to go through the CEO, who unfortunately for the owner was away for the next 3 days. I was unfortunate for him and not me, because in those 3 days the entire company almost fell apart. Out of the 20 people working under me, 18 of them decided to quit in protest because of what the owner did to me. They were refusing to work for him and all signed their name onto a petition to have him fired. I've never felt so much love from people that were not family or close friends before. I knew that they all knew that I was gay, but never realized how strongly they would stand by me if something happened because of it. Keeping in mind, most of these were men in the tech industry and stereotypically not the most social or easy to read people. Without a single person manning the system, it ended up getting hacked into. Personal data from both employees and clients were stolen and they had no idea how to secure it again without me there. It only took 2 days for the CEO to call me on the phone and basically beg me to come back. CEO, I heard what happened and I want to personally apologize for what the owner did. We had no idea that he was sexist or biased. He has been fired and will not be welcome back. Me, I appreciate the apology, but he was the one that did all of that, including firing me. CEO, yes, firing you was not okay and I hope that you did not find another position yet. I want to personally welcome you back to the company as head of IT. Me, since I was fired, I want my contract renegotiated. CEO, that's more than fair. I just really need you to come in and help with this data breach. I was not gonna screw over the company by being petty against somebody that was not totally at fault for this. So I went back in and fixed things before renegotiating a small raise and extra week of vacation time. Once I came back, I also wanted the rest of the staff that quit to be offered their jobs back. Once they realized that I was in charge, they came back and were more than happy. We had to get a new boss, but this time the CEO was hanging around and keeping an eye on him, not letting the same mistake happen again. This new boss was way better and understood that women could actually be an asset in the workplace and extremely important. I think the CEO was just relieved that the entire thing did not end up as a worst case scenario, with the data breach ruining the company or me suing the hell out of them and winning millions. I know some of you think I probably should have still sued them for wrongful termination and harassment. The thing is that at the end of the day, I really do like my job and the company is good. It was one bad mistake, and if every person had their lives ruined from one mistake, we would all be miserable. So now it is 2 years later and I am still running the IT department, and it has needed to almost double in size. I had been put in charge of hiring everybody under me and made sure that anybody I did was gonna fit in good with our little group. They had my back, so I wanted to make sure to hire people that would have theirs if the need arises. And here, ripe stars, let me know in the comments whether you enjoy these business-related stories or not. I think it's a nice little change to have them every once in a while, but let me know what you think in the comments. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. A little background on me before I get right into the story. I was in the military for a while, but I was eventually discharged due to an injury to my legs. I did not lose complete function of them, but I lost enough to make continuing in the military pretty much impossible. I enjoyed fighting for my country, and losing that was difficult to accept, but I then worked with new recruits and helped them figure out what branch of the military they want to go into and understand what to expect while in the service. The main mobility aid I use is a walker that I've personalized with blue paint and keychains from different pieces of media that I enjoy. People have made comments to me in the past about how I am pretty young to already use a walker, but that is just the nature of having a disability. Sometimes you have to use aids at a younger age than most and deal with the opinions of others. I am only in my 30s, but I don't feel embarrassed to use things that make the world accessible to me. I've had my fair share of people confronting me to tell me that I'm not allowed to park in a disabled space, despite the fact that I very clearly have a placard visible on the rearview mirror of my car. I feel like strangers are way too comfortable approaching disabled individuals and harassing them about things out of their control. The amount of times I've been told I cannot bring my walker into a restaurant, second-hand store or movie theater is ridiculous, and they can never come up with a genuine reason why I cannot, other than the fact that it takes up space. I know I cannot have a job where I stand all day or anything, but that does not mean that I'm incapable of moving around like a normal person. I know all of this info seems pointless, but I feel like it's important that anyone reading understands what disabled people experience on a day-to-day basis and what kind of things I am used to. I would not be talking about every single experience I've had because we would be here for a while, but I am instead going to highlight one thing that happened recently that left me stunned. So I live with my long-term girlfriend and she works in a hospital, so she doesn't always have time to go out or pick up things that she needs, so I usually end up doing a lot of the shopping. Her job is important and I am more than willing to pick up groceries and cook so that she can have a meal ready when she gets home. Plus, she makes it up to me by cooking or cleaning when she has days off. I had stopped by Walmart to pick up some food and various household products. I preferred it to other stores mostly due to how low the prices were, and the local grocery store had a tendency to get crowded and become difficult to navigate. I was minding my own business and getting everything done when I was approached by a middle-aged woman with short blonde hair and a shopping cart full of items. Karen, excuse me, do you think you could help me find something? Me, I don't actually work here, sorry. She gave me a weird look up and down which made me uncomfortable. Karen, just tell me where the paper towels are. Me, again, I don't work here. But if you go down this way, it should be in the aisle next to the soap. Karen, why do you keep saying that? Me, what do you mean? Karen, you keep saying that you don't work here, but you're wearing the uniform. I looked down at myself and saw I was wearing a blue shirt that didn't have any markings on it. Me, I just happen to be wearing a blue shirt, but I don't work here. Karen, people like you are all the same. Me, what do you mean by that? She gestured at my walker and gave me a knowing look. Karen, you disabled people will come up with any excuse not to do your job. Me, I can assure you that I'm not creating an excuse. I really don't work here. I'm trying to shop just like you. Karen, whatever you say. Is there a manager I could speak to? Me, I'm not sure. You should ask an actual employee about that. Karen, you're starting to really piss me off. All I'm asking for is for you to help me out. Me, I told you where you could find paper towels, so I don't know what you want from me. Karen, you're giving me a lot of attitude and I don't appreciate it. I don't think you deserve to get paid when you treat customers like this. At that point, I knew the interaction was not going anywhere. No matter what I said, she refused to accept that I did not work there and that I just wanted to continue with my day. I started to move away from her and keep going with my shopping, but she blocked my path the moment I tried to leave. It's like she wanted to trap me in the conversation no matter what I wanted. Me, ma'am, would you mind moving out of the way so I can continue shopping? Karen, not until I'm able to speak to a manager about you and get you fired. You're clearly not grateful enough that someone was willing to hire you since you're disabled. I doubt you'll be able to get another job this good. Me, I work for the military as a recruiter, so I don't have any reason to be worried. Karen, you really love to lie, don't you? We'll see if that changes. She then grabs my walker and rips it out of my hands, and at this point, which causes me to stumble. Me, you cannot just grab that, I needed to be able to walk. Karen, I don't believe you. I bet you're one of those fake cripples who only want to get sympathy and special treatment from others. You're way too young to be disabled. Karen, my leg was crushed under a truck and I'm lucky I didn't lose it completely. I have no reason to lie about that. Give me my walker back or I'm calling the police. Karen, you're free to do that, but think about who they are more likely to believe between the two of us. She started fumbling around with her purse and was clearly looking for something, and I sighed in frustration. I did not want to get authorities involved, because dealing with the cops is often annoying, and not to mention the fact that there were likely more pressing issues for them to deal with. When I looked back over, I saw that Karen had pulled out a gun and had it aimed at me, which froze me in place. I wasn't really afraid of the weapon itself since I had encountered my fair share of them while I was on active duty. I was more concerned with Karen herself as I did not know enough about her to know what she is capable of. Before I could think too hard about it, I lunged at her and knocked the gun out of her hands and grabbed a hold of her. She tried to squirm out of my grip and reached around to bite me, but I was able to move her and pin her to the ground. Someone caught sight of the incident and rushed off to get security while another stranger helped me keep Karen in place. The police arrived soon afterwards and I learned that a young woman had seen the whole interaction and had called the police the second my walker had been taken away from me. I thanked everyone for their help and decided to press charges against Karen because the disgusting, ableist things she said to me on top of drawing a gun were enough for me to want her off the streets. If she was willing to do these things in public, then I was scared to see what she was capable of in the privacy of her own home. The last I heard, she was sitting in a jail cell waiting to receive her sentencing. And the next story is titled Entitled Pizza Person. So there I was at my local strip mall carryout Pizza Hut waiting up front with one other customer for my order. A disheveled older man walks in wearing a t-shirt and pajama pants and carrying a Pizza Hut pizza box. He walks up to the counter and the exchange with the employee, PHE, goes something like this. CB, I called earlier. You said I could have this pizza for free. PHE, yes sir, we delivered it to your house by accident. You can keep that pizza. It's free. Choosing beggar then opens the box showing the pizza toppings to PHE. This pizza has pepperoni on it. I don't eat pepperoni. PHE confused. I'm sorry? CB, can you make me another one? PHE confused again. Sir? CB, since this pizza is free, I cannot eat it. Can you make me another one? I was listening to the entire exchange and I perked up here and shared what the hell looks with the employee and the other waiting customer. Then I laughed uproariously at the CB's brazen and shameless request. The CB turned around to look at me and then lowered his eyes sheepishly. PHE, if you would like to pay for one, then sure. CB, no. He leaves the pizza on the counter and walks back out of the door, and I shared a brief moment of, did that really just happen? With the other customer and the employee for about 30 seconds until my pizza was ready. I guess this guy thought that he was entitled to a free pizza of his choosing to compensate him for the inconvenience of a missed delivery being sent to his house. Not that he was being allowed to keep that particular pizza, since it could not be re-delivered to the correct customer once it was in his hands. And the next one is titled Stupidest Neighbors. I had neighbors for a year that have been absolutely trash humans. We own our house and they rent. We keep our yard clean and vehicles in good shape for their age. They have a never-ending parade of different vehicles, 5 to 7, parked at any given time in front of a 900 square foot house. This guy is a known age dealer and the cops are frequent visitors. He likes to park his cars in the street and in front of people's driveways like ours. The first few times it's annoying, but we ask nicely and then they move. Another time he is in our driveway when we get home and we tell him to move. He then blows up and starts threatening us and yelling. Fine. I inform him next time he blocks or parks on our property, I will just have him towed. Fast forward to him parking an absolute wreck of a truck about 6 feet from the curb on a narrow 2-lane residential street and leaving it there. After a few weeks, I sent a polite inquiry with photos to code enforcement and forgot about it. Code enforcement finally shows up and puts the orange "Tow Me" sticker on the rig and then cites him for all the trash in his yard and also runs his plates and VIN, and a couple more vehicles disappear. Now I enjoy parking on the street in front of our house legally and safely and leaving my covered carport and big driveway empty because F that guy. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. So this happened a few years ago, around the time I was 17. I had just started working at a smallish cafe run by a well-known family in our area. I knew some people who had worked there before and they told me for the most part the owners were great, very chill and laid back when it was slow, and normally were not bad about breathing down the employees' necks. Their oldest daughter, who also helped run everything, was the one who was very peculiar, and we will call her Karen. So I am officially diagnosed with having a hearing deficiency. Not enough to be considered deaf, but more than hard of hearing, so I wear hearing aids. My first day before we opened, my coworkers asked me if they could do anything else to help me out, and we eventually started talking about the hearing aids in general. While talking about everything, I mentioned they had Bluetooth capabilities, so I could play music through them if I wanted. Not that I would, but I could. Karen had been in the room at the time and said, "You cannot wear those, no earbud policy," and tapped on the policies paper on the wall. I of course protested, explaining they are hearing aids and not earbuds, and that I wouldn't be using them to listen to any music while I was working. Her reasoning was that I didn't need them because I was not considered fully deaf and I was doing this to get around the no earbud policy, directly quoting when I said they could play music. I cannot wear them? Okay, then let's see how this goes. I placed them into the case in my bag and started my shift. I could not understand my trainer, could not hear the customers, and couldn't hear when orders were called to be sent out. Things were going extremely slow, a couple of warm pastries burned since I wasn't able to hear the timer, and simple sentences had to be repeated multiple times with people basically yelling at me for just being able to piece a few words together. I guess the cherry on top was me ignoring one of the owners when she tried speaking to me. Karen then came up to me and tried addressing me about it until she finally realized what was going on after she had repeated herself 5 times. By the end of the shift, I was allowed to wear my hearing aids, no questions asked. Sell my son your land or I will call the police. Some backstory: my now passed on next door neighbor was a terrible busybody who felt it was her God-given right to tell everyone in our street what they could and couldn't do, ranging from where they parked their cars to what flowers they could grow. She had to know everyone's business and would harass people until she got answers, even going as far as stalking, but that is for other stories. If she didn't get her own way, she would spread the most evil gossip. Her adult children, a son and a daughter, were both greedy and deeply entitled, believing that because the majority of the street were either social housing or rented properties, they were supposedly better than everyone else, and if they didn't get what they wanted, then Mother would sort it out. I got many stories about this neighbor, far worse than this one, but I will start off with this one as it is the mildest thing she had done and fits into the EP subreddit better. The son owns 2 other properties near the end of the street which he rents out. At the very end of the same street is another house with a plot of land right next to it. The owners of that house and land built a garage that they use for work, rebuilding old cars and bikes. The business is at least 30 years old, handed down from father to son. It is very small, so they can only work on 1 vehicle at a time, but due to the owner's skills at restoration, they are always in high demand. One day about 10 years ago, the son rocks up in his latest BMW and walks up to the owner, a father and his teenage son. The rest of this conversation is paraphrased as I was not a witness, but this was told to my family by the owners themselves. S stands for son, O is owner, the father, you know the drill. Son:
"Hey guys, it's your lucky day. I want to buy your land. I will give you £15,000.
Which I think, guys, is around $19,000. And also notice that he did not ask if it was for sale or offer to negotiate a fair price. Oh, no, sorry, the business is not for sale. Thanks for the interest though. Son:
I was not asking for your business. You can set up somewhere else. I want this land. It's just the right size to build another house on.
Owner: well, sorry, no, this is our livelihood. We cannot just move. We would lose business while looking for someplace else, and besides, it used to be my father's garage and it is next door to our home, so why would we want to sell it? Son:
So you can make money.
Insert a random duh face here. Owner: but we make money working here, so sorry, but it's not for sale. The son then does what you would expect a grown man of 30, yes, 30, to do. He complained to his mother. His mother takes no time at all to walk back to the garage. Entitled mother: why won't you sell your garage to my son? He wants to build a house here. Owner: because this is our place of business and we don't want to sell. Entitled mother: you shouldn't even be working here. It is dangerous. Owner: I can assure you, ma'am, everything is up to code and we have every right to work here. Now, please leave us alone. EM: what are you hiding in there? Is it drugs? Owner: what? No, we are fixing up an old bike. EM: I knew it. You are working here legally. Sell your land to my son or I will contact the authorities. The owner laughed and told her to go ahead. She stormed off and they thought it was over. Just the nutty ravings of a mad granny, right? An hour later, sure enough, the police arrive. Apparently, an anonymous caller rang them to say that the owners had been dealing drugs out of the garage. It was obvious who had called them. Of course, all the neighbors had seen the police arrive. Our street is normally quiet and we are all nosy bastards, so when you see a blue flashing light, you step out and watch the show unfold. EM took great glee in telling everyone who stood around and watching the chaos how the owners had been selling drugs to children and how she wasn't the one who called them, but everyone knows what is going on and thank goodness something is finally being done about it. Half the neighbors were shocked at this event, but a few of the longer term residents were already giving her the side eye like it was on special offer at Tesco or Walmart. She must have been feeling pretty smug with herself, only there was a snag. Just a little one. Because the tiny garage worked on rare and old cars, which can be expensive, the owners had CCTV. That was something EM had not counted on. After the police had shown up, the owners knew who the culprit was and had no issue with showing footage complete with sound to the officers, showing EM threatening to call the police if they didn't sell the land. With half the neighbors out and watching events unfold, the EM's face switched from smugness to fear as the police walked away from the garage and approached her instead. The officer then asked if they could step inside her home to discuss something she probably did not want her neighbors to hear. She received a warning regarding harassment and wasting police time. The owners of the garage were never bothered again, and the last remaining neighbors who didn't know how bad she was finally saw her for the horrible woman she was. Sorry, the ending was not epic, but that's just how it was. Update to the story. Oh wow, yep, socially awkward online as in real life, sorry, I'm rubbish. I did not expect this to be so popular, especially as I posted it at 3 AM-ish while on a load of painkillers. I will try to post more about Crazy Pants as we call her in the future, although they are not so many EP stories as just batshit crazy witch ones. Further update, I did post another story, but it was sadly eaten by gremlins. I will try again soon. The next part of the saga is titled Harassed Over a Parking Spot. So, some of you have been asking for more stories about my crazy neighbor and her adult kids. A reminder, my next door neighbor who my family and friends and I called Crazy Pants was a very nosy, very entitled woman who tried to tell everyone who lived in the same street what they could and couldn't do. Her adult children were equally spoiled. My neighbor on the other side of me we will call Gina. Gina is a mother of 3 who works in the local supermarket. She is the sort of person who, if you tripped her up, she would apologize to your foot. One day her husband John got a new job which came with a company car. Nothing special, it was covered in logos for the company, but it meant that Gina could use the family car whenever she needed to. Some of the houses where I live have driveways and some don't. Gina has a driveway, but it only takes 1 car. As they were liable for the company car that took up the space in the driveway, and her car would be parked either in front of my house or CP's, aka Crazy Pants, as neither of us had drives. It's a public road, so anyone can park anywhere as long as they don't block a drive. One day, entitled daughter bangs on Gina's door. Apparently she was annoyed that Gina had been parking in front of her mother's house. That space, as she saw it, was for her when she visited, and because Gina was in the space, ED had to park in front of my house and walk the whole 5 feet to her mom's house. Oh, the humanity. This was when Gina made the following mistake. Gina, I'm so sorry, but isn't OP's house right next door? I'm sure you don't have to walk far. ED,
How dare you? That is my parking spot. Why do you have 2 cars anyway? You're just a stupid checkout girl.
It was at this point that John overheard and demanded that ED leaves. So ED does what a grown woman of 40 always does, she whines to her mother. That was when CP went into overdrive. Over 6 months, whenever Gina and her family stepped out into their garden, CP would come out and shout at the children for being too loud, or at Gina for wearing inappropriate clothes. Gina wears bikinis in the summer, which, being the UK, lasts about 31 minutes. She would also turn up to the supermarket Gina worked at and hovered around giving her death stares. Social services, think CPS but they cover more than children, were called and told that Gina and John had been putting out cigarettes on the children. The RSPCA were called and told that Gina has been starving her cat. She didn't even have a pet at the time. Also, every time her car parked in front of CP's house, CP would bang on her door screaming about her parking space. Poor Gina tried everything. She recorded the abuse and called the police and the council, but they were only willing to give a warning. Her work could not remove CP as long as she wasn't doing anything, and she could not prove who called social services and the RSPCA. In an effort to help as we were between the 2 neighbors, my dad, and yep, I live with my dad because I am his caretaker, decided to let our hedge grow to block CP's view of Gina's garden so she could have peace. It worked for a while. Then one day we get a knock on the door. Our house is council owned, so all necessary maintenance work is carried out by them. A man from the council stood there and let us know that the new fence would be up by 4 PM. Next thing we heard was the sound of a hedge trimmer. My dad stormed out and demanded to know what was happening. Apparently we had called the council regarding the very slightly wind-damaged fence between our garden and CP's and agreed to have it replaced. We didn't call anyone. In order to put the new fence in, the hedge we had needed to be removed. There was nothing we could do. We made it clear that no one had called anyone, but because the fence was damaged, they decided to continue and there was nothing we could do. Lo and behold, the next day CP was leaning over the fence and was back to shouting at the children. I would love to say that CP got what she deserved, but Gina eventually cracked and sold her car. She then paid £600 for a new fence. Afterwards she got rid of the car. The harassment stopped as quickly as it started. Gina is fine now. She now has a management position and a new dog who likes to play with mine. Next time, the one where Crazy Pants demands to know what I am doing at 2 AM in my own home. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to check out my playlists for more awesome videos. Also, if you haven't already, I would very much appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to not miss any videos. Thank you so much. I will see you again tomorrow.